takes something more than intelligence to act intelligently. This beautiful line comes from Fyodor Dostoevsky novel Crime and Punishment. It's likely one of the lines that later impressed Kafka, Nietzsche, and many others. But what does it really mean? In this writing, I will explore the very question through one particular lens of crime and punishment, a perspective in which Dostoevsky presents a modern thinker, a man attempting to create his own meaning in life. But did he truly succeed in his mission? What drove him to seek meaning in the first place? What drove him to seek meaning in the first place? And how have modern ideologies become more of a curse than a final answer for all of us? Keep in mind, this is just one perspective on crime and punishment. Your opinion may differ. Egoist individuality. The modern thinker in Crime and Punishment was none other than its protagonist, Raskolnikov. He was a destitute law student living in St. Petersburg, struggling to survive on the meager financial support of his poor mother. His life unfolded into two main stages. The first was defined by egoistic individualism. Raskolnikov immersed himself in radical ideologies, rationalism, utilitarianism, and nihilism. He spent most of his time alone, detached from human relationships, lost in abstract theories that distanced him from conventional morality. After overhearing students discussing how mean and selfish the pawnbroker was, he convinced himself that she was a parasite on a society. Acting on this belief, he committed a brutal crime. He murdered her. He justified his action by telling himself that eliminating a worthless individual would serve a greater purpose. He even rationalized that by taking her life, he might be able to pay for his tuition and other expenses. Following the murder, he withdrew further from his close friends, resembling the underground man from Dostoevsky's Notes from the Underground. His ego led him to believe in a superior category of people, those who were above societal and religious norms, unbound by conventional morality. Before the murder, Raskolnikov had written an article arguing that some individuals, those destined for greatness, had the right to break moral and legal boundaries in pursuit of a higher purpose. If he never explicitly used the term Übermensch, his philosophy closely mirrored Nietzsche's concept of Superman, an individual who transcends conventional morality. Raskolnikov saw himself as one of these exceptional figures. He wanted to be like Napoleon. His ego pushed him towards action he believed were justified. The same ego can be seen in Pechorin from a hero of our time. Pechorin was obsessed with power, applying nearly every Machiavellian principle to achieve his goals. He was manipulative, fond of women, and at one point even killed his friend in a duel. Unlike Raskolnikov, Pechorin succeeded in creating his own meaning in life, at least for a while. But the seductive appeal of these modern philosophies were clear. They created an illusion that intellectual superiority will justify ethical transgressions, and that detachment from humanity could lead to enlightenment. This is precisely why many people are drawn to the famous Machiavellian principle: the end justifies the means. But in Raskolnikov's case, this wasn't entirely true, largely because of Dostoevsky himself. Svidrigaïlov and the Mirror. Dostoevsky also sought to deliver a positive message by the end of his novels. Another character in Crime and Punishment, Svidrigaïlov, represented the ultimate consequence of this way of thinking. He embodied that Raskolnikov might have aspired to become a man who had discarded all moral restraint. Svidrigaïlov had killed his wife, preyed on vulnerable women, and attempted to blackmail Raskolnikov's sister, Dunya. But when he tried to force himself on her, she resisted and in self-defense attempted to shoot him. Both Raskolnikov and Svidrigaïlov serve as parallel representation of modern men. Through them, Dostoevsky illustrated how different paths lead to different destinies, and what ultimately determines those paths. Nihilism, a double-edged sword. The greatest happiness is to know the source of unhappiness. Both Raskolnikov and Svidrigaïlov spent part of their lives in depression. Raskolnikov embraced nihilism from the start. Svidrigaïlov only turned to it in the final stages of his life. When Dunya tried to shoot Svidrigaïlov, he was forced to confront his own world. His entire purpose in life had been built around power, the ability to seduce any woman he desired. But in that moment, Dunya shattered his illusion. He destroyed the very foundation of his existence. He fell into despair so deep that he could no longer bear it. He ultimately took his own life. His journey reflects the descent from absurdism to nihilism. At first, he embraced the absurdity of life, but in the end, the The belief that nothing truly matters consumed him entirely. On the other hand, Raskolnikov, who killed two people in pursuit of meaning, was followed by a torment far greater than any external punishment. His crime shattered his inner peace. His conscience rebelled against the very reason he had used to justify it. Every moment afterward was consumed by guilt, paranoia, and the unbearable weight of his own mind. What he once believed to be the devil's hell turned into an inescapable curse. The possibility of redemption. As mentioned earlier, Raskolnikov's life unfolded into two stages. The first was defined by chaos and meaninglessness, all fueled by fueled by his belief in nihilism. He found no peace, no satisfaction, nor an increasing descent into suffering. But in the final stage, he began to see a way forward. Dostoevsky often portrayed characters in conflict with their own demons, revealing that the deep flaws and self-deceptions of human nature. Yet he also suggested that redemption was possible. He shared something with Nietzsche. Nietzsche warned of the rise of nihilism in European culture, but also saw it as an opportunity, one that only minority, the Übermensch, could transcend. Dostoevsky presented a similar path, but with a crucial difference. To him, the way out of nihilism was not through intellectual superiority or power, but through humanity and human connection. Raskolnikov found this in Sonia. She was a prostitute, yet remained steadfast in her beliefs. He had spent his life pushing away those who cared for him, but in the depths of his suffering, he finally saw something real in her. He confessed his crime to her, and she stayed by his side even when he was in a prison. In the end, Raskolnikov came to believe that he loved her. He began reading the Bible, searching for something beyond the empty justifications he had once clung to. That was Dostoevsky's way. The story always ended with a possibility of redemption. He believed that the true happiness could only be found by believing in something greater. As he wrote in The Brothers Karamazov, the mystery of the human existence lies not in just staying alive, but in finding something to live for. This is exactly where modern thinkers often lose themselves, leading to confusions and depression. Lie modern men tell themselves. Above all, don't lie to yourself. A man who lies to himself and listens to his own lie comes to a point where he cannot distinguish the truth with him or around him. This God speaks to the tragedy of crime and punishment, the tragedy of self-deception. As mentioned earlier, Raskolnikov, a brilliant but tormented student, convinces himself that he is above morality. He believes that some people like himself are extraordinary meant to shape history, and therefore not bound by the same moral laws as ordinary people. He tells himself that killing a greedy old pawnbroker is not just acceptable, it's justified. And that is a lie. A lie so powerful that it distorts his reality. A lie so seductive that it numbs his conscience. But the moment he acts on it, he begins to unravel. The murder doesn't liberate him, it crushes him under the weight of his own self-deception. His ideologies, which once made him feel powerful, now isolates him completely. He is consumed by guilt, paranoia, and alienation. This is where crime and punishment becomes a warning, not just about the crime, but about the dangers of believing in an ideology so completely that you lose your ability to see reality. Modern intellectuals often fall into the same cycle. They convince themselves their worldview is the ultimate truth. They see those who disagree as foolish or evil. They become emotionally incapable of questioning their own beliefs. Just like Raskolnikov, this leads them down a path of isolation. The more they cling to ideology, the more they disconnect from reality. They stop seeing people as individuals and start seeing them as ideological enemies. Human connection, that missing piece. There was one thing that missing in Raskolnikov's life, something that might have prevented him from committing his crime in the first place: human connection. Through his interactions with Sonia, a woman who had suffered immensely but still chose compassion or cynicism, he begins to see the truth, not a philosophical truth, not an ideological truth, but a deeply human truth. He learns that life is not meant to be concrete. It is meant to be lived. That people are not ideological constructs. They are complex, flawed, and worthy of empathy. No amount of intellectual rationalization can replace the simple power of love, kindness, and humility. And this is the lesson modern intellectuals often refuse to learn. They believe that knowledge alone is enough, that logic alone is enough, that ideology alone is enough. But Dostoevsky shows us that without empathy, without human connection, without the ability to see beyond our own beliefs, none of it means anything. Escaping the trap. So how do we escape this trap? How do we avoid becoming like Raskolnikov? So consumed by our own ideas that we lose touch with our reality? The answer is intellectual humility. Dostoevsky's most tormented character often end up holding a Bible in the end, symbolizing his belief that faith provides ultimate peace, but his real mission was to warn against the rise of modern ideologies, because he saw in them a great danger, one that will lead humanity to collapse. Nietzsche later expanded on this same idea, warning of the dangers of nihilism, a topic I will cover in next time.